Hey guys, now you know when there's so much crap on the counter that it won't fit into a 10mm ultra wide lens that it's gonna be a good day on AEAC vlog. We are going to talk about the Donnie FL. We are going to talk extensively about Airgun Slugs. And we are going to talk about and demonstrate the patchworm. And I'm going to share with you why it's been such a favorite of mine over the years. Okay, but before we get into all that, let's get you through the NeutronStar here. Now, there's been some confusion on the name. This used to be called the Hatsan Novastar, has for the past year and a half or so. But I called Hatsan, and long and short of that story of the name changes, you may not know this, but Hatsan is a global manufacturer for powder burning shotguns, and they have a shotgun in their lineup that has Nova in the title. So it's causing confusion amongst their dealer network and their buyers and what have you. So to simplify and streamline that, they've changed this name from Novastar to NeutronStar. So that's what's going on there. It's basically the same gun. All right. Now, before I get you through the gun, which I'm going to do rather quickly today because we have so much other stuff to talk about, I gotta tell you, I'm more than a little bit smitten with this gun, all right? You know, there's been a lot of demand from you guys on me to start incorporating Airgun Slugs into my review process. And if that's confusing to some of you when I say review process, let me just hold you right there. This is not my primary YouTube channel. This is my secondary YouTube channel that enables me to kind of slow things down with you guys, do a little bit of discovery and approach, bring you in on the process here. And then after that, about a week later, normally everybody heads over to my main YouTube channel, the Airgun Exploration and Advancement channel, also called AEAC Home, the big one, which is where we're going to do a full review on this gun, testing at 50 yards, 100 yards, sound, trigger, refill, you know, all of my thoughts. I'm going to share all that with you there later, okay? But after having spent a couple of days with this gun, I got to tell you guys, if you're one of those that have been after me to start reviewing slugs because you see that change in the wind where the industry is going, this could very well be your gun. And let me share with you why. Right, to shoot an airgun slug properly, you need more power than a traditional pre-charged pneumatic pellet rifle has kind of evolved to have over the years, because they tend to be heavier and they do best up around 900, 950, 1,000 feet per second. Whereas, you know, a Diablo shaped pellet with that, you know, that kind of bulbous head and that parachute on the back, they're going to do best around 850, 875 feet per second. So, you know, the air gun market hasn't really caught up, if you will, or the industry hasn't really caught up. But Hatsan has always sorry, I kind of spit on the counter there. Hatsan has always been kind of ahead of that power speed curve and has always kind of overpowered their guns. Well, what that's kind of done for them is off the shelf, they have a gun now that loves Airgun Slugs. And that's kind of why I've been so smitten with this. After a couple of days of testing, this thing is an airgun slug monster. And what I mean by that is everything that you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these projectiles down here, 7 of them are slugs. And they're slugs that are between 20 and 25 grains. And this gun performs absolutely fantastic with them. And the other piece of why I'm so excited about that is it's $880. All right, and as you know, to get into an air gun that's going to do well with slugs, you're between $1,000 and $2,000. So to me, this was kind of a big deal, and I was really excited to share that with you guys. All right, and besides, look at this freaking thing. It's gorgeous, right? And it's not just a looker, it performs at a super high level. So let me get you through some basics on the gun. I'll get into performance and what I've learned so far, and then we'll start talking about some of this other stuff you see on the table. All right, so it's 43 1/4 inches long, all right? So it's not small. by itself, without the scope, mounts, and bipods, you're at about 8.3 pounds. When I put the scope and rings on it, it brought it up to 10.6. The Donnie and the bipod are going to be additional on top of that. So it's a hefty gun, which actually plays to your favor when you're on the bag or you're on the bipod. I don't know if I'd want to be wielding this around in the field, but you know, I'm a little guy. Some of you big guys may be totally cool with it. All right, but the gun, as you can see, has a shrouded barrel. I don't know if this shroud does much for noise, because this is loud. All right, it is a loud gun. It is not a backyard-friendly gun. But the good news is Hatsan does incorporate 1/2 inch UNF threads up here on the business end so that you can add the moderator of your choice, and I did, and we'll get into that. Right now, Hatsan's the whole thing's made in Turkey. All right, Hatsan's barrels even come from Turkey. Now, I know what you're thinking. This thing does super well with slugs. It must not be a choked barrel. It's a choked barrel, so it's going to do great with pellets. It happens to do great with slugs. Excuse me. Getting over a cold here. Okay. And so I don't know what Hatsan's doing, but this thing is a slug monster. Like I said, it absolutely loves them. All right. Side lever cocking. It's got a nice drop down right here. Pops out. The throw is nice and short. That's all there is to that throw. And you guys are going to be excited to know this safety on the back, which those of us who've been shooting Hatsan for a long time have always kind of saw that and went, uh-oh, there's an automatic safety. It's manual, guys. It does not reset itself every time you cycle. Watch it. Look at that. All right. So the cocking weight is, it's not light or moderate. It's going to be on the heavy side, certainly heavier than the TDR that I reviewed last week, but that was a 31 foot-pound gun, and this is a 46 foot-pound gun. So there's going to be more pressure on that hammer spring. Speaking of hammer spring, it is adjustable, all right? Speaking of adjustable hammer spring, there's also an kind of like an anti-ping or an anti-bounce mechanism built into this gun to increase efficiency. And oh my God, you want to talk about efficiency. You know, I stumbled on this a while back. Hatsan figured this out, at least when I became aware that Hatsan figured it out was when I reviewed the Nova a year or two back. That thing had a shot curve that was long and wide and flat, and it was not regulated. This is not regulated. You don't need a regulator. A lot of you guys, I don't know, you come across as a little bit like you've got tunnel vision on, oh, it's got to have a regulator. If it doesn't have a regulator, I don't want it. Well, you know what? To you guys, some of y'all are missing the boat because not all guns need regulators. And when you don't have a regulator, it simplifies the entire gun. So more reliability, less things to worry about tuning, and these kinds of things. But Hatsan figured out how to tune from the factory a wide, flat shot curve right into their guns off the shelf, and this one is no different. 480cc carbon fiber bottle. It's a 250 bar fill, which is like 3,625, is that right? PSI, something like that. If you fill it to 200 and you shoot it down, if you fill it to 250 and you shoot it down to about 200 bar, you're gonna get 5960 good, flat, usable shots. And by good, flat, usable, I mean like for distances like 50 yards, 100 yards. You're not going to have point of impact differences. You're not going to have drops and these kinds of things. All right. Now, if you want to shoot it on further down, you can. It's good to about 180 bar if you're going to be doing work like, let's say, inside 30 or 35 yards. After that, it really, you hit that 200 bar mark and it slowly starts coming down after being flat. And then you hit that 180 bar mark and it just really starts to drop. And so you can get 69, 70 good shots out of it if you're doing kind of shorter field work. All right. So now you're thinking, okay, well, there's a ton of shots. It's super efficient. It must not make any power, but as you know, I already mentioned, it makes huge power. Okay, this thing is pushing a JSB Jumbo Monster redesign, which is a 25.39 grain pellet, to an average of 901 feet per second across those 60 shots, with an extreme spread of only 29 feet per second and with a standard deviation of just 7.4 feet per second. Like I said before, what that means to you is you're not going to have point of impact changes at 50 and 100 yards for those 60 shots, okay? $880, guys. I want to circle back to that. Just friggin' look at this thing. Like I said, if you want to shoot 16 and 18 grain pellets, forget it. It's too hot. It's pushing the JSB 18.13 grain to 1,017 feet per second, if I remember. And surprisingly, it performed well at 25 yards at that velocity, but you're just going to muck up your barrel or let it up really quickly at those speeds, because that lead just tends to really bond as you get over 920, 930, 940 feet per second. And so, you know, don't even fool with it. Just go to a 25 grain and kind of start there, and you'll hear it. You'll hear that the gun's inner workings really like that 25 grain as opposed to like an 18 or 20. It just sounds different. It sounds like there's no wasted air. It's a smoothness harmonics thing that you guys will pick up on when you shoot one and then shoot the other. You know, you can see what I mean with all that. Speaking of that Turkish-made barrel, Hatsan barrels in the past for me have always been accurate at 50 and 100 yards, whether it's a $300 PCP or something like this, which is an $880 PCP, what have you, regardless of how smooth the inside of that barrel was. Like, some of them come kind of rough. Some of them have come to be kind of smooth inside. This one has come to be super slick inside. So slick, I would put it up there with like almost like what an Air Arms is sending you their barrels. Air Arms uses Lothar Walther barrels, and they go through quite a bit of extra barrel prep at the Air Arms factory before you guys get them, which makes the insides like smooth as glass. This one was smooth as glass. And so I have an inclination, and we're going to do this together in a couple of minutes. We're going to pull some patchworms through, that it's not going to take a lot of cleaning to get that clean again after the 350 pellets and slugs that I put through this over the course of the week and doing all of my culling and figuring out what it wants. So this should be a dirty, gunked up, gnarly, nasty barrel right now, but it's still shooting amazing. Even now, even after putting all that junk through, the last stuff I shot kind of like in a final round were these slugs again, and oh my God, they've just been insanely accurate at 25 yards. So take it with a grain of salt. But as you guys all know, we've all seen pellets shotgun at 25 yards, and we've all seen them go through the same hole. I got to get everything out to 50 and 100, and I will next week. And then I'll feature a couple of what you see over here in the final review, the best of the best for this gun, so to speak. But that's a story for later. All right, the stock. It is real Turkish walnut. It's thumb hole. It feels fantastic. You just look at this thing. I mean, everything is properly placed. My wife's sleeping, so I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but here it is without a moderator. Okay. It's bleeping loud. All right, but the stock is amazing. It has an adjustable comb, an adjustable rubber butt pad, excuse me. The ergonomics are fantastic. The balance is right there. And it's right there without the bipod too. And it's really a nice swing. It's one of those guns that for some reason doesn't feel as long as it is when you're kind of wielding it around. And I think that's because of the really good placement of the cocking arm and that drop down. Hatsan's done a super good job there. Manometers on the bottom, okay? And for those of you that don't know, the Hatsan Quattro triggers are badass, especially again at this price point, $880. I realize I'm probably sounding like the ShamWow guy, but it's a lot of gun for that money. This trigger, it's dual stage, it's fully adjustable. It's what I would call match grade out of the box. but it broke at about 2.5 pounds out of the box, that second stage. So the owner's manual does tell you how to go through the 3 different trigger adjustment screws. For me, I went 1.25 turns clockwise on screw number 1, and that's all I had to do. It brought that brake weight down from 2.5 pounds to 1.5 pounds, which on the bag made a significant difference in accuracy at 25 yards. So that's going to be critical when we get things out to 50 and 100. So I've left it at that 1.5 pounds, and I've left it there for kind of my final, double check of all the culling to make sure that I wasn't getting, fluke results or what have you. And it's just all good, all right? You'll notice a bunch of pellets and slugs down here. For those of you that follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Hooked on Air or AEAC, you guys know what this is all about. In the backyard, I set up ballistic gelatin. I fired all these slugs and pellets into it, put the super slow-mo high-speed camera on it. I'm going to share that footage with you here in a few minutes when we get into the slugs. But let me think if there's anything else I wanted to share with you about the gun. Yeah, there is actually. There is this receiver here machined into the top for your scope rail are two different machinings. There's an 11mm machining, and there's also a weaver machining. So what that means to you is you can use either weaver or 11mm mounts, whatever you want, to mount your favorite scope to the top of this receiver. Speaking of favorite scope, this is an Optisign EVX 6-24 by 56i. Big old bell. Tons of adjustability, nice side wheel focus. You're in about the $420 price point on these. I believe I saw these at Trenier. I know that also Utah Airguns carries Optisign, and this is personally one of my favorite brands, which is why I like to feature them so much. But we'll get more into the scope on the full review. But it's a gem. If you don't know Optisign, if you don't know me, I've put out tons of videos on them. Glass, reticle, everything moves really good. I do want to it's all, folks. I do want to touch on something I came across working with the gun for a few days. I could not get the gun on target at 25 yards. There's 2 things that can cause that. Either I've got barrel droop, something's going on in the machining of the receiver. Maybe that's been built into the gun. I don't know. Or there's something a little funky going on with the scope here. I don't know. But long and short of it is Sports Match Rings UK has these adjustable scope mounts, which are phenomenal to use. Easiest and best scope mounts that I've ever used. And let me tell you why. You simply you don't unscrew, you loosen a 1/4 turn, maybe this one and that one. And then on the bottom, there's a little bitty grub screw. And then you kind of twist that grub screw, and that raises and elevates, and then you lock it back in, and it's super easy. But anyway, I return the scope to kind of an ocular center, and then I use these adjustable scope mounts to get on paper at 25 yards, and everything will be nice and optically centered here. So when we go forward at 50 and 100 next week, I ought to have a good experience. I really don't know what it all means yet, but I wanted to share it with you so that you guys were kind of where I'm at. I think that's about it for the gun. It's a 22. Obviously, you've probably seen the title of the video. The reason I asked for a 22 is where the airgun industry is with slugs. Is 22 was kind of their starting point. Nielsen Specialty Ammo, FX Hybrid, JSB, H&N Sport, they all kind of focused on their 22 slug out of the gate because the ballistics are so good with it. And I know a lot of you probably want a 25 cal pellet review of this gun. That won't be me. Excuse me. You guys have been putting a lot of pressure on me to start bringing the slugs in, and I want to. So the 22 is where I wanted to start with all that. I think we're going to get into. Let's do this before we get into everything good I learned about with the slugs. Let's talk about the Donnie FL Sumo moderator. You're about the $150 price point here. A lot of my favorite dealers offer this. Airguns of Arizona, Utah Airguns. There may be more. or you can buy them directly from Donnie. I recommend you check out his website. It's phenomenal. He's got adapters for all sorts of different air guns. And this is a very powerful tool. You can get them in different calibers. As I mentioned, this is a 22 cal. This is a 25 cal moderator. I tend to like to err on the side of caution and always go one above where the gun is, because there's less chance of the opening of that moderator and any kind of alignment difference between this aftermarket accessory in your air gun here causing any funky turbulence behind the pellet to where it mucks with accuracy. You know, going plus sizing, if you will, is often your friend in the moment. I do it out of a habit because you're not really, yes, it is a smidgen quieter if you have a 22 moderator on a 22 rifle, but going from this to this is still like, it's day and night. It completely transforms the sound of the gun. It completely transforms the shooting experience. It goes from very boisterous to very enjoyable just with the addition of this. And Donnie's got all sorts of different moderators for you to pick from. So go over there and check it out. Now, YouTube's not a big fan of me sharing how this attaches to the gun, but like I said, there's 1/2 inch UNF threads up on the front and it simply threads on. And that's what it looks like, all right? I'll do this one more time. I don't know if we're gonna hear a difference because we're inside, so this is gonna be a lot, but you may be able to tell a difference between before and now. No, it's just loud, but outdoors, tremendous difference. Now here's the other big thing. The accuracy is often affected in a negative way by adding an aftermarket moderator. Not with this, not with what I saw. All of my accuracy, pellet, and slug testing was done with the 25 Sumo on the 22 rifle. So just know that. God, I'm spitting all over the place today. All right, slugs. There's so much information I kind of accumulated and wanted to share. I'm breaking my cardinal rule. They like to call me the one-take wonder because I don't use notes. I don't use breaks in the video unless I absolutely have to. But there's so much I wanted to share with you. I kind of wrote this down to kind of get you through it because there's a lot to be learned. Oh, now that I'm staring at my notes, I see it. The NeutronStar comes with two 12-shot magazines in 22, as well as a single-shot tray, as well as a proprietary fill probe that it goes right in here, right, and this little plug insert comes out. Here, I'll do it the other way so you guys can see it. Okay, ta-da. And it comes with a little bag of extra seals for you and additional magazine storage. So you've got 24 with you, 12 in the stock, 12 in the receiver, and you're good to go for hopefully a full day of hunting at 46 foot-pounds, all right? Okay. I'm going to get you through all of these in order of lightest weight to heaviest weight, and there's a reason for that. And there are 1, 2, 3, so there's 4 slugs, 2 pellets, and what we're going to get into are some of the differences between slugs and pellets as far as leaving and arriving energy. Okay, because slugs are designed to carry their velocity and energy further. Whereas a Diablo-shaped pellet with that parachute on the back and that kind of big Boeing 747, nose up on the front is designed to bleed energy and steam very quickly, which can be your friend. Not everyone wants to shoot an air gun at 200 and 300 yards, which we are seeing now that's what these things are capable of with slugs. 50 and 100 yards. You don't want to worry about your pellet going through the forest and into the farm next door. So, there's a lot of good things to be said for pellets, and they're an important tool in your tool bag. So don't take any of this that I'm dissing that or taking away from that. Just be aware of it so that you can make good decisions for you and what you're trying to accomplish. If you're out on the plains and you're trying to smack a prairie dog, 200 yards away, you're going to slug it. Right? That is not a job for a pellet. Pellet is 50 to 100 yards, right? Speaking of the distances, I mentioned earlier that that JSB redesign 25.39 grain is leaving at 901 feet per second, which is about 46 foot-pounds. It's hitting paper 25 yards away, still carrying 39 foot-pounds of energy with it. So just nasty. All right, enough. Slugs. Okay, so going from lightest to heaviest, let's start out with the 18.21 grain Barracuda Hunter, which is right here. It's a Diablo-shaped pellet, all right? Accurate out of this gun, relatively accurate out of this gun. Dimers, nickelers at 25 yards. Fine with me. It's got a big old giant hollow point on the head of it, all right? This is leaving at 1,031 feet per second, which is probably why we're dimers and nickelers at 25 yards and not like putting them all through the same hole. That's hot, okay? You're not going to get the accuracy out of a pellet that's going that fast, right? It leaves at 1,031 feet per second, and just 25 yards away, it's already bled a ton of velocity. It's impacting at 868 feet per second, so it's leaving at 43 foot-pounds. And it's arriving at 30 foot-pounds, 25 yards downrange, so it's lost 13 foot-pounds of energy, okay? 4 inches of penetration into the gel because, and I'm going to show you all this video when we get through this, because, oh my freaking God, look at the heck. Look what, this is what it looks like when it leaves, and this is what it looks like after impacting the gel. So you ever wonder why you shoot like a squirrel or something with these Barracuda Hunters and it just sounds like a firecracker went off? Well, now you know why. Massive expansion, dumping all of its energy in just 4 inches, okay? Great hunting choice, short-range hunting choice for this gun. All right, let's move up and weight a little bit. The NSAs, it liked all of these different weights at 25 yards, all right? I decided to shoot the 20.2 grain NSA, excuse me, because it seemed to like that one best. All 5 literally went through the same 2.2 sized hole down there at 25. So, you know, the other ones were good, but that one was stellar. So the 20.2 grain leaves at 955 feet per second, arrives at 901. So we're losing a lot less steam, all right? Leaves at 41 foot-pounds, arrives at 36 foot-pounds. So it's only lost 5 foot-pounds of energy. I think it's all the cold medicine. It's making like nothing works like it should, right? So it's only lost 5 foot-pounds of energy between here and whatever's 25 yards away, as opposed to 13 foot-pounds of energy lost. All right, so right there, you've got 2 projectiles that weigh almost the same, 18.21 grains, 20 grains, right? And one is carrying a lot more energy to target, and that is because of an increased ballistic coefficient. That slug is much slipperier, more slipperier, is that a word? Okay, in the wind, so it's not going to lose all that energy as it goes, right? Penetration, 19.75 inches. And guys, my ballistic gel is calibrated perfectly to FBI specs. I put a lot of hours into doing that. So that is the real deal. Where is it? Right here. Okay. Don't ask me why. It just didn't open up much. I don't have an explanation for that. Maybe Nick can chime in on the notes and tell us why. On that note, you know, depending on what you're trying to do, more expansion in a slug is not necessarily always better. Okay. In my mind, yes, it's better if I'm squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, you know, some kind of smaller critter where I need for that projectile to dump all its energy in 4 to 6 inches, transfer all that right into the target for a more humane dispatching of that critter, okay? But let's say I'm moving up to a fox, a coyote, a coon, a possum, something with a little bit more, you know, girth or chutzpah. Maybe it's even a boar or a wild hog. This thing, I'm telling you guys, all right? Then it becomes important to have more penetration because you're trying to do as much damage as you can and nick as many of those vitals as you can to more humanely dispatch that critter. So in those instances, I'm definitely not going to shoot that with something that's going to open up in 4 or 6 inches. I'm pretty sure. on a big critter like that, I want more penetration to make sure I'm getting the job done. So these are all tools that you can tailor to the application that you're trying to achieve. Okay, getting off track here. FX hybrid slug, all right, 22 grain, all right, very accurate. Left at 910 feet per second, arrived at 866 feet per second. Left at 40 foot-pounds, arrived at 37. So it just lost 3 foot-pounds of energy. So there's a pattern there. The NSA slug lost 5 foot-pounds of energy. The FX hybrid slug lost 3 foot-pounds of energy, as opposed to a Diablo-shaped pellet, which lost 13 foot-pounds of energy. You guys starting to see that? All right. Penetration with the FX hybrid slug was only 4.5 inches because, wow, did this thing open up. Look at that thing. I mean, just wow. All right. So you talk about energy dump. That's a really good round for little critters. All right. All right. Moving on. Now, this is where it gets really kind of interesting for me, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the notes. All right. The JSB redesigns. All right, probably the best pellet for this gun. 25.39 grains, right? Left at 875 feet per second, arrived at 833 feet per second. All right, so it left at 43 foot-pounds and it arrived at 39 foot-pounds. It only lost 4 foot-pounds of energy. Now that is on par with what the slugs were losing in energy between the muzzle and 25 yards. And the other thing that was interesting is, okay, well, we're going to go backwards. All right, so we're going to start with this one. And the other thing that was interesting was that penetration was, hold on, I got this all backwards. Time out, let me redo this. All right, JSB Monster Slugs leaves at 904, arrives at 825, leaves at 46 foot-pounds, arrives at 38 foot-pounds. That's an 8 foot-pound loss, okay? Significantly better than, where is it? The Barracuda Hunter, probably because of that blunt nose versus kind of that parachute nose. And you're going from 18 grains to 25 grains, so it's carrying more energy further. And check this out. Penetration was 15.25 inches with this, and it dumped 38 foot-pounds into that target 25 yards away. All right, so, and the reason I'm kind of all hung up on this pellet is you guys will see it in a minute when I show you the footage, is the wound channel and the cavity that this thing made. You could have probably put 2 broomsticks in. Just gnarly. And on that note, we're going to get this gel out to 50 yards like I did with the TDR last week on a couple of these favorites so that we can see what's going on. So you guys can look forward to that. All right, sorry. So where was that? The redesign, here's the pellet. It didn't really change. It didn't really change in size any. Okay. All right, so now the JSB slugs. All right, the JSB slugs weigh the same as the JSB redesign, 25.39 grain, 25.39 grain. So this is the part that I had meant to say was interesting. All right. The slug is leaving at 875 feet per second. And you remember our redesign left at 904. All right, so that tells me that this is for some reason getting a better seal inside the barrel because it's leaving with more speed. All right, so I found that interesting. All right, so the slug is leaving at 875. It's arriving at 833. All right, so not only has it caught up, but it's passed our redesign as far as its speed to target. The slug landed at 833 feet per second, and the monster landed at 825. So again, that's a tribute to an increased ballistic coefficient. All right, so what did that mean for energy? That meant that it left at 43 foot-pounds and it arrived at 39 foot-pounds, 1 foot-pound more of energy than this guy. And penetration was 6 inches. And it was a pretty gnarly little wound channel. And expansion was quite good. I realize I'm showing you all these, but I'll be putting pictures up on the screen so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. All right. Now, the heaviest of all of them was H&N's Slug. Now, I noticed in some of the comments on Facebook and Instagram, you guys were confusing this with the Grizzly. This is not the H&N Grizzly. It's nothing like it. It's completely different redesign. They come in 217. They come in 218. So if you didn't have luck with the Grizzly, try these, because I didn't have luck with the Grizzly, but I love the 217 H&N Slugs at 25 yards. All right, 27 grain. Leaves at 829 feet per second, arrives at 800 feet per second, leaves at 41 foot-pounds, arrived at 38 foot-pounds. So this only lost 3 foot-pounds of energy, which is right there with the FX Hybrid, and right there with the JSB, right there with the JSB. So the Slugs are carrying more power and speed to the target, which is also going to be your friend in the wind. All right. Something I noticed last week when I was reviewing the Airarms TDR is these H&N Slugs were only traveling, I forget, it was like 720 feet per second, 730 feet per second. But in like 10, 15 mile an hour winds out at 50 yards from like my 3 o'clock, they were just like, they weren't even moving, as opposed to like a 16 grain pellet, which was deflecting several inches, like 1, 2, 3 inches, depending on the gust. So you don't necessarily need the speed, I learned, to get the accuracy at 50 in the wind with slugs. So just wanted to point that out. Penetration was 9.5 inches. And what's so interesting about that is it's kind of like a tweener, all right? It's going to give you more shock and transfer than something like an NSA, which is, I guess, designed for deeper penetration, right? But maybe not as much as something like a JSB or an FX Hybrid. So, you know, if you buy all of them, you've got everything covered. You've got your small game, your medium game, your large game, because you can really control that expansion and that penetration. Penetration was 9.5 inches. And as you can see, it flattened out wider than it was for sure. And there you go. All right, so that H&N opened up about that much, however you can see there. So I think this is a good time for me to rest my voice and let you guys in on the video. You know, it's nothing fancy. It's not the fine-tuned editing you're going to see over on the big channel, but it is, I did bring the cameras with me, set them up in the backyard to kind of bring you guys along with and into that process, because I was curious, okay? Before I show you this footage, the other thing I want to share with you is things happen very quickly at 25 yards. The camera is a 240 frame per second camera shooting at 1080p, high definition, but things happen so quick at that range because the velocities are still so high. It's still hard, even at 240 frames per second, to capture everything that's going on in the gel, all right? What that means to you guys is we'll get a better look at it when we move that gel out to 50 for a couple of these next week. And you'll really be able to see kind of what's going on frame by frame with expansion. But it definitely gave you a feel. All right, so with that, here's the footage. All right, so you guys are back from the footage. You've seen it. Some interesting takeaways, right? Some surprises there. You've got pellets that are performing as good as slugs at 25 yards as far as energy dump, like your H&N Barracuda hunters here, right? And then some surprises like the redesigned pellet just creating these massive double broomstick deep wound channels, carrying, really just seemed shocking the shit out of the gel, as opposed to some of these slugs, which you can hear in the audio. I mean, when they hit, it's just like you can just hear the energy just being dumped into whatever. So some of these slugs that open up in 4 to 6 inches, they're doing a great job. But I guess what I'm trying to relay to you is if your gun winds up liking Barracuda hunters and not slugs, all is not lost. You're still getting the job done, and you're getting it done in a glorious way. All right. So I want to do a segment on patchworm. About 1.5 years back, I did a video on how I clean air guns. Now, I'm really passionate about this because I read all the forums, guys. I read Gateway to Air Guns, I read Yellow, I read GTA, I read what you guys have to say, and there's still a lot of confusion out there as far as barrel cleanliness and how you want that, and I get it, and I get into all that in the video, but long and short of the way I'm able to get the level of performance out of these guns that I do, there's a couple of things to it. All right. One, after spending a week with the gun and putting 300, 400, 500, 600 rounds through it, depending on the gun, this one didn't take nearly as long. It just was very cooperative. I have learned where in that barrel's state of cleanliness it likes to be. What I mean by that is some air guns shoot great off of a squeaky clean barrel. Some will not perform till you get 100 shots through them. In my experience, most start performing after 10 to 20 shots. That's enough to get the oil and the dust out, lay down a little bit of lead, and you're good to go. All right. Now, the thing you want to learn as an air gun operator of your air gun is at what point does that accuracy start to fall off? Is it after 100 shots? Is it after 1,000 shots? Some guns you'll hear guys say it. I don't ever clean my barrel, and that's their barrel, and that's legit. Right, so you need to know where in your state of cleanliness your gun wants to live. You also got to do the homework and figure out what pellet it wants, right? And then you got to learn how to shoot your gun, all right? Anybody that tells you that pre-charged pneumatic air guns aren't hold sensitive, bullshit. They're very hold sensitive, all right? And that's because of all the different harmonics going on, the relatively slow shot cycles, meaning you've got air passing through valves and regulators and making bends and doing all these, getting from here up and through here into here, So there's a lot going on between the time when you squeeze the trigger, that hammer hits the valve, and the pellet leaves the barrel, especially a long barrel like this. Yeah, the pellets are slugs, they're moving faster, but that's a long distance to traverse, so you really got to focus on your follow through. So with big guns like this, follow through becomes really important, not so much on the shorter guns. These are all things I can teach you in a totally other vlog, but that's how I'm able to get the accuracy out of these guns. I've learned it. Does it want downward pressure on the grip on the bags? Does it want squeezing pressure? How much cheek and shoulder does it want? Those all come into play when you're talking about getting the consistency and accuracy out of your gun. Now I realize that all goes to shit when you're doing this. Unless you get really good at it. But a lot of what I learned shooting springers over the years is very applicable to PCPs, and don't let anybody else convince you otherwise, because if you do and they do, they're giving you misinformation. They're leading you down a bad trail. Okay, so enough about that. I'm very passionate about this patchworm because long and short of it is, it does a better job. I put this up against like a Dewey and a patch and some homemade weed whacker remedies and all these other things I've got and used over the years, and it consistently gets the barrel cleaner. I can run 10 Deweys through something like this and then pull one of these things through, and all of a sudden I've got I'm pulling lead out of the rifling that was lodged in there. And I'm like, how the heck is that doing that? All right. It does it. All right. And you don't have to get crazy with chemicals and all these other stuff. But let me share with you why. I mean, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, but let me share with you why I feel like this does a better job always. And then we'll demonstrate it on this insanely filthy barrel where I've put like all this junk through it over 2 days. All right. But Patchworm, they've got their own website. I don't know if they're available in other retailers anywhere, but I've been using them for years. They sell what are called small bore caliber kits. Dirt cheap, guys. These are like $8, $9 each. So if my math is good, 9 times 4 is what, 36 bucks? You can get 177, 22, 25, and 30 and have them all, okay? Not knocking it, but I've used bore snake. I'm the guy that years ago was buying bore snakes, taking the metal, taking all that time to take the bristles out of the middle and pull them through. It just doesn't do anything. These things tend to get these things insanely clean, 3, 4, 5 pulls, especially if the barrel has been conditioned like I have a hunch that this one has. All right, so Hatsan's been listening to me talk about them gritty barrels over the years, but like I said, the gritty barrels haven't mattered as far as 50 and 100 yard accuracy, but I'm sure they matter when it comes to how long that barrel is going to go before you got to clean it, right? All right, so these 3 kits of the 22, 25, and 30. The blue one you see here is the 177, all right? It's basically a weed whacker line that has a point on the front, except there's a little collar, a little blue collar. You see it there that's calibrated to a 177 barrel. So when I put a patch on that, it's going to be properly toleranced and really push out and scrub the walls of that barrel as I pull it through, all right? Now the green ones come with their own collars, if you will. So there's the green string is going to be applicable to the 22, 25, 30, but then each of those kits will come with a different sized collar to fit that barrel. All right, so that's the difference, right? A kit comes with some cleaning patches. They used to be soaked in ballistol. I don't know if they still are. It comes with the collar, and it comes with these little plugs that you can pull through. The plugs are a useful tool. I tend to use the plug towards the end because I find that after I pull some patches through and then pull a plug, sometimes the plug will grab some lead out of the rifling that the patches won't. But that's not the norm. That's normally the exception. Speaking of the plugs, okay, Patchworm offers all different size plugs. That's 357 and 35, it's 30, it's 25, it's 22. And look at the little baby 177s, all right? So it offers all of those, right? So you can pick some of those up too. They're cheap. They offer patches. They offer a 7/8 inch patch. They offer a 1 1/4 inch patch. Patchworm, I presume you're watching this. If you are, please, for us air gunners, start offering what is this? A 1 3/4 inch patch, because this scrubs the walls of 9 out of 10 air gun barrels better because it's pushing harder and tighter than do the 1 1/4 inch patches. And the only place I use the 7/8 guys are usually when I'm just getting started and maybe that barrel feels extra tight, or I use these on the 177s. All right, so that's Patchworm in a nutshell. So let's have some fun. Let me get set up here and move some things so I don't make a mess and get Mrs. Katya Shalley mad at me today by messing up her beautiful kitchen counter. All right, ballistol. Only thing I ever use to clean an air gun barrel. Why? Because it friggin' works really well and it won't hurt anything on your gun. It won't hurt the wood. It won't hurt the plastic. It won't hurt the paint. It won't hurt the metal. It won't hurt any O-rings or seals. And it just does a fantastic job. All right. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way here. Give us a little bit of room. Now, if I've got a barrel that maybe I'm lapping, or doing some polishing inside, and I'm going to remove it from the gun and take out all the O-rings, to clean that barrel after putting all that JB bore paste and all that gunk and mops in there. I do like Kroil, Kroil, however the heck you guys say it. That stuff is phenomenal, but I always finish with this to get that out and then dry patches to get that out. All right, so always rubber gloves. It's not good to get these things on your hands. All right, get a little towel set up here. Now, cleaning the NeutronStar is a total piece of cake. Yeah, I just want to get this to where you guys can see it. All right. The shroud assembly simply unscrews from the top of the barrel and the receiver. All right, and I'll show you how to do that. Little counterclockwise turn is all it took. All right, and then I can take this will just kind of free float on here. All right, and then I don't even have to take off the moderator. Then I can take the whole assembly, whoop, and slide it right off. Okay, and there's those 1/2 inch UNF threads that hold everything in place. Okay, so I'm going to cock this. I am going to put it on safe. I always like to test to make sure I'm not going to launch a patchworm across the house. All right, and now I'm ready to go. So it's a 22 cal, right? So we're going to get our 22 kit, which is right here. All right, so here's the string. All right, and you'll see that it's just pointed on one end so that you can pierce your patches. All right, and on this end, this is a stop for the collar. Unlike the 177 blue ones where the stop is the collar. I want to be clear on that so no one gets confused if you start buying these for yourself. All right, and in the kit, you'll see it comes with a 22 collar. So let's pop this open. And these things are so nice, guys, because you can carry them into the field, bust them out, pull a dry patch through if you see something funky going on with your accuracy while you're hunting or out there trying to figure things out, like I'm always out there trying to figure things out. All right, you take that collar and you just slide it right over the string. Okay, and that stop is going to stop it, right? So now when I put a patch on here and pull it through, I'm going to have a really good tight scrubbing tolerance. Excuse me. Pushing on the outer walls of that barrel, pulling all the junk out. Now this comes with those little 7/8 inch patches. I'm curious if they put Ballistol in here. Those smell dry, so I'm going to go with a no. All right. I'm going to leave that as is because it's going to go to one of you guys as a winner. You know, I did kind of skip that whole thing. So Airgun Nation Forum is home to me. That's the forum where I live, so to speak. I go to the other ones, but that's just town central for me. That's what I call home. And monthly, the industry likes to go through Airgun Nation and myself, if you guys don't know, and host monthly airgun giveaways. It's called Review, Discuss, Win. It's where a manufacturer will send me a product. I'll review it here on the vlog and on the main channel. And then concluding the review on the main channel, I'll send all you guys over to the Airgun Nation forum where you get to partake in a discussion on the two videos. You get to swap notes, figure it all out. And then in a simple number-based lottery, one of you gets to win everything I used in the making of that video. So for example, the winner of this review, Discuss, Win, is going to get it's going to win this actual NeutronStar that I used in all of my testing and filming. This Optison scope, so we're $880, we're $440. That $150 Donnie FL moderator, a bunch of pellets from JSB and H&N Sport, and what else are you going to win? Oh, and you win patchworm. This patchworm specifically. All right. And some other paraphernalia from H&N. They like to throw in some hats and these kinds of things. So if you're not tuned into that, tune into it, guys, because we do that monthly. And it's a tremendous celebration of our industry. And it's a really nice way of them giving back to you guys. So show your support and get on over there and enter. It's all good stuff. Very nice of Hatsan and Optison and Donnie and Patchworm to do these. They don't have to do that. All right. So I thank them, and hopefully you guys can do the same because we're all in this together. Okay. For for some reason, it just popped into my head, so I'm going to share it before I forget it. It's been that kind of morning. JSB slugs, when are these coming? So these are early prototype slugs that JSB sent to me, and I'm guessing some other reviewers to test them and send feedback on how they're doing, all right? And that's what I've been doing kind of behind the scenes for them. They're coming. They should be landing here March, April. So I'm guessing that means to you guys March, April, May, maybe, for when you're going to see them on stores. And the JSB slugs are already here. The FX slugs are already here. And the NSA slugs are already here. So you can pick all that stuff up. Okay. So before I forgot, there's that. So what I like to do to begin with is I'm already familiar with the gun. Normally I would pull, you know, a little patch through, then a little bit bigger one, then a bigger one, you know, work my way up. I already know the gun, so I'm going straight to the big one so I can get the work done that I need to do, because it's like you can kind of fine tune this process, all right, by the thickness of the patch. That's what I love with this thing. All right, so I'm going to get 4 of them here. That's probably enough. Give it a good shake. I'm going to give these a pretty little decent soak. Nothing overboard. I'm going to just take a minute and knead all that in so that ballistol is working its way into the patches that are towards the middle of my little 4 stack here. All right. Ballistol, does it smell like black licorice to any of you guys? To me, it smells like black. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She thinks it smells like diesel fuel. I think it smells kind of good. Feels kind of nice on my lungs. They're a little bit raw today. All right, so what do? We take our patch and we pierce the patch with that nice pointed tip. We slide it to the end where you see the collar is, all right, like so. And then we just worm it up the barrel. Okay, and there it is. If you don't want to take your moderator off, you can always slide a drinking straw down the end of the moderator. All right. And that is so freaking slick. I'm telling you guys, you know I'm passionate about a lot of airgun brands, but something about this barrel is it has a state of fin. Hatsan's been doing an amazing, for those of you guys that haven't been paying attention, Hatsan's been doing an amazing job with their barrels for all the PCPs I've been able to review for them over the years, which has been a lot. And like I said, some feel rough inside and some are slick, but they're always accurate at 50 and 100. Okay, this is the amazing thing, all right? So maybe they're upping their game with this. So guys, let's give some credit where some credit is due. This is an $880 price point gun, and I'm seeing big boy polish put on this gun. All right, so here's what it looks like. After all of that insane junk I put through here, look at that. I only see one little teeny little piece of lead fleck on there. Sometimes these things come out looking like what you dump out of the end of your LDC. There's just lead shavings everywhere. But after putting all of those pellets and slugs through here over a couple of days, nothing sticks. It's just not sticking, and I think that's because of that. Whatever finish they're putting on there. Now I'm going to turn the patch around because I don't like to be wasteful. Right now I'm going to use the other side of the patch. Right? Now don't be ripping this patch through here, guys. You want that patch to be on those barrel walls and that chemical long enough to like have a little interaction and make a difference. What am I doing here? 1 wrap, 2 wraps. That's all I'm doing. I've also learned you want to pull this not like this out of the barrel or this. Pull it straight, otherwise these barrel, the rifling at the end can kind of chew up your patch worm. Oops. All right. So that's going to happen sometimes. So I poked the hole through there and it pulled the collar through the hole. Sometimes you can get away with that, sometimes you can't. Normally I get away with it. I don't know why that one let go. Let's see what happens on this next one. But it's really a pretty quick process when I'm not doing so much talking. All right, so there we go. Take a minute. 1, 2, nice and slow. All right, so look at that already. The difference. Where did that guy go? 2 pulls. And look where I'm at already. All right. Now I'm going to reverse it. All right, don't make me look a fool now. I just told all my buddies here that I normally get away with a double pull on these things. There's a lot of pressure on this pull, guys, because that I keep forgetting, that 1 3/4 inch patch I'm putting through here. But it's because I don't want to pull so many damn patches through here. 1, 2. There it goes. All right. Amazing. Look at that. I'm almost clean. 3 pulls. Did I tell you guys? After all of that crap I put through here, all those different projectiles, did a lot of shooting over the last couple days, guys. Shot charts and all that culling. A long shot chart and a short shot chart. By the way, that long shot chart, I mean, holy shit, guys. That's like 70 shots that thing looks like. It's amazing. Hatsan's figured it out. They're really figuring stuff out. They're figuring out their factory tuning. They're figuring out these barrels. I mean, do you know of another air gun? I mean, if you know of one, tell me. Please, in the comments below, do you know of another air gun that performs this well with all of these pellets and slugs? I don't. That's kind of why I'm so smitten with this. It usually likes a pellet or 2 or a slug or 2. This NeutronStar has some like outer space magic pixie dust sprinkled on the barrel. Look at that, guys. Look at that. That's the 4th pull. And we're about done here. The only reason I'm doing another one is because I am particular natured. Another nice way of saying that is I am anal retentive. That's what my wife says. But so is she. So what does she know? I guess that's what makes us great together. All right, that's the 5th pull. All right, now, I know that you guys, a lot of you have been air gunning long enough to be like, you pull like 20 patches through and you're still pulling patches. Look at that. Look at that. All right, guys? Patchworm and ballistol. I sound like a commercial. As easy as 1, 2, 3. Been wanting to share that with you guys forever. Don't be sitting there pulling like crazy on your air gun. All right, you've got better things to do. All right, so I just usually take the towel. All right, and then we can kind of set it aside there. Now, what I like to do is, sometimes ballast oil can drip down into the transfer port, and you don't want to clean and dry your barrel and then start doing your testing, and that transfer port starts coughing up oil. And it's going to take longer for that barrel to set in or season in because you got to shoot all that crap out. All right? I should probably have hearing protection on because I have no moderation on here at all. But I like to blow this out 4 or 5 times. And hopefully the lighting is good in here to where you'll be able to see this. But you'll be able to see some of the atomized oil come out of that transfer port and barrel. Here's a little. All right, I can see it's not coming out anymore. All right, so I've got a lot of that out. Now I'm going to cock it again. I'm going to set my safety. I'm going to test it. All right. Now it's time to have 1 wet patch left over. Didn't even use it. Now it's time to pull some dry patches through. All right, you don't want to leave. Now, if I'm putting the gun up for a couple of months, or I'm putting it up for the summer or whatever, or winter, depending on wherever you are and how you use it, I'm leaving that wet coat in there. Right? Let's pull a dry one through here. I'm leaving that wet coat in there just as a rust preventative. But if I'm going shooting, the pellets and the factory lube and graphite on them and stuff is all the rust preventative you need. As long as the gun is in use. All right? God, is that slick. I mean, just look at that. Look at that. Love it. Got all of that garbage out of there. Now, if that first patch had come out with a bunch of lead all over it, lead shavings and dust and stuff, then I would have gone right to, I call them, Patron calls them felt buttons. I would have gone right to a felt button. But I didn't see that, so I don't feel like there's any need. All right, so look at that. Just a little bit of dirty oil, and that's all that's on there. All right, but since I got you guys, I know you'll probably be mad at me if I don't pull one through, so let's pull one through and see what happens. I suppose I should be demonstrating it to you anyway. Okay. All right, so the patch goes on first, because you can pull just the felt button through if you want to, but I like to put the patch on and then put the felt button out in front of it, like so. So you have felt button, patch, proper collar, and then the stay, and that's what it looks like. Now it can be tough to get, because these felt buttons are square, it can be tough to get them in the breech. So what I like to do is pinch and roll. Excuse me, I like to pinch and roll the front of it. Right, to give it a little bit of a concave slug shaped shape, so that I can get it in there a little easier. All right, so I'm going to kind of knead it in with my fingers. This one went right in, no problem, because it can get hung up on those edges if you just don't pay attention. All right, let's see if this does anything. Oh yeah, lots of pounds of pressure there, but so smooth. Ah, got it. So smooth. Look at that. That sucker is clean and dry now. And you can see the rifling marks on that plug. Button, sorry. So you know that it's done something. It just gets in there. I'm going to pull this once more through backwards. Make sure we're dry. And then we are good to go. I've cleaned the NeutronStar in front of you guys. Look, I've done some work and videoed for you at the same time. Before I move out to 50 and 100 for the full review over on AEAC Home, I always re-clean the barrels. Almost always. Unless I've learned that that barrel just wants to be dirty. But this one, 5-10 shots in, it was, into my amazement, well, really not, because it's been prepped somehow. It's just really slick inside. To my amazement, even after putting all that garbage through and finishing up with the slugs, it did great. All right, so we are going to push the safety off, safely decock, and put our shroud back on. There's no ventilation or anything on this shroud. It's a heavy, thick piece. This ain't no mamby-pamby Marauder shroud. This thing is heavy duty, man. That came off like I was knocking the Marauder. I'm not really. I love them. I own a Marauder. I'd never sell it. I got a 25 cal Marauder with a green mountain barrel on it. That's just, it's a good gun. Nice Boyd's blaster stock. And I just rotate this whole thing counterclockwise. Do not over tighten this, all right? Let's see. Oh, just so it's, I'm not gripping this hard. I'm just kind of gently squeezing it, very gently letting my glove slide. And that's it. You don't need to over torque it. All right? So that has been a lot in a vlog. So hopefully I haven't put you guys to sleep, and that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, this has totally brightened your day, because it has mine. I'm going to go and start editing. It is very early Saturday morning. Hopefully I have this video out to you guys tonight to enjoy Saturday evening. And I have a beautiful week next week. It's supposed to be like 75, 80 every day, which I will take for February, what is that? That'll be the February 9th, 10th? Love it here in Florida. Winds are supposed to be 5 to 8. Perfect for testing slugs and a gun like this that can push them at the velocities that it is. So thank you guys for watching. And I'll get that review knocked out next week and to you. And I'll see you again then.